We believe, and we want to, of course, believe that we stand for credibility, integrity, and reliability. We stand by our tagline. When we say it's news, not noise, we mean it. We break away from all the clutter, and we want to do, and I believe we do, credible journalism, brave journalism, solution-based journalism. NewsX has, in a way, reinvented the wheel, and others, of course, can perhaps take a note or two from what we're trying to do. But who are the people who really envision our goals? What is it that we need to do, and how is it that we need to do? Let me introduce you to our senior editorial team. Mr. Rishabh Gulati, managing editor of NewsX, joins me on the broadcast. We also have with us Vineet Malhotra, consulting editor, Megha Sharma, executive editor, and Uday Pratap Singh, also our editor of NewsX, will join us in just a short while from now. But let me begin this conversation with Megha, if I can. Megha, if you can just quickly, of course, people see you on screen almost on a daily basis. If you can just help our viewers understand what was your perception of journalism when you entered this field, and how has NewsX sort of changed or transformed that? And of course, you've transformed our channel with your input as well, but what's been the change for you?
Well, it's been more than 4 years that I have been at NewsX, and obviously when you start off, you have some preconceived notions, and those conceived notions were broke down because we had a vision in the form of Rishabh, our managing editor, and he drilled down the point that there has to be more to journalism than this tamasha news that we were so used to seeing. And he would obviously say, we need to break the clutter. But how do you do that? And we need to do it in a constructive fashion. We need to go about finding solutions. We also need to take up a topic and not just harp upon the point that one political party is doing something, so the other political party is obviously going to bash it up and just do this tamasha, and because people are going to watch it, that's what is popular. And to do that, it's been a difficult journey. It has been a long journey. It has taken us tedious amounts of efforts to go and bring this point across to our viewers, but we've been able to do that. For example, I'm just going to give you one of the latest examples with the Great India story that we were doing. Now, this is something that perhaps no news channel has done it before. And the Great India story was about how our artifacts, how the ancient civilization of India, whether it is the Harappan civilization, whether you go to Lothal, whether you go to down south, and we go about exploring our history, exploring our roots. And can you imagine perhaps a different news channel or a publication or a news agency really even wanting to do that? None of them have done before. But when we did that story, we got so many responses. We got a lot of kudos from a number of people. Our viewers who watch us on a daily basis tell us that you do different journalism. You're transforming the journalism space. You're transforming the TV space. And kudos to you, and great guns going ahead.
Absolutely. Vineet, let me bring you into the conversation as well. Vineet, what sort of feedback do you get when you speak to people or when they watch your shows? What's the sort of feedback that you get from them on the sort of journalism that we're trying to do here? Because, like we've been discussing earlier with the younger team as well, it's always easy to put two people who can shout at each other in a studio, and then our jobs as anchors or reporters becomes very easy. But when you have a bunch of people who you want to ask intelligent questions to, that's how much tougher the job gets. But what's the feedback that you receive, and what keeps you then motivated and going?
I think the answer lies in the question also that you've asked me, Devika, that, you pick out 3 words from the question that you asked me, that, we are different, and I'll tell you exactly how we are different. You said that, we don't do any hangama, we don't do any shor sharaba. And I think the intellectual quotient in all of us, for the same reason, is a lot higher. We are less on dramatics. We are less on Saas Bahu. We are less on what he said, she said. And I think we have a very stable mind on top of us, and that's Rishabh. I would like to give credit to Rishabh as well, because I think in a news channel, being a calm managing editor is a big achievement. I've worked with a number of people in the past, and I think what separates Rishabh from them is that he's always calm, he's always got an objective and a balanced approach towards everything. I think that has also kept all the anchors on NewsX pretty grounded, and that emanates, that shows in our anchoring as well, that shows in our character when we anchor as well. The things that I get to hear about the shows that I do is that, I'm pretty calm. I don't interject. I don't talk over people. I allow people to articulate themselves without shoving what I feel. I think our job is not to be opinionated on NewsX. Our job is not to basically scream and shout and impose that agenda and this agenda. And I think that is the reason why a lot of opinions are blossomed and converted into editorial headlines throughout the country, because we allow for that space, we allow for that latitude, to be shown to our guests and to our projection of what news is really about. If you watch some of the other news channels, this is not about one man up ship. It's basically about what kind of a sabzi mandi the news market has become. And I think in that sabzi mandi, NewsX is the mall. That's the comparison I'd like to give.
That's a good way of putting it. And let me now come to the man everyone's been praising, Rishabh. I just want to understand from you, when I started out 6 years ago at NewsX, yes, we were also a little bit a part of the space that TV journalism was. It was always about first on this and first on that, and we are the best, we have so many viewers. What made you want to move away from that?
I don't know. Interesting journey. For a lot of people that have worked with me will think that Vineet is saying that Rishabh is calm. Rishabh is probably anything but calm, but hopefully a method to the madness. I had a privilege. I don't know. I'm accidentally a journalist. I was a science student in school, stumbled upon to this profession, and I was trained by the best. I've seen such hard-working, good people in this industry who have kept me in, right? If you have people like Megha, Devika, Vineet, Priya is joining us now, okay? There are some who have been career journalists, but for younger people, if my job is to inspire them long enough to believe in this medium, is also to change it. So the one thing that I was taught was sheer hard work and the application of your own mind. I know this is a cliche now for all of you because you've heard me say it too often, but whenever you're dealing with something, good, bad or ugly, and generally news is generally something bad or ugly, something nasty has happened, so it's news. You just stop for a second and apply your mind on what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it. Because the problem, and we have to be accepting of the problem in journalism, I want you to understand, for people watching the broadcast, and we don't often get to address it, and there are other people to speak who are, Priya is my senior to me, been here for a long time. The problem as I saw it change, I am at the last cusp of the generation from the old-fashioned, very slow TV journalism, when you had a meeting in the morning and you have to file a story in the evening, and it was a completely different format. It changed. The format of aggressiveness in the news in terms of urgency was good, but we lost the track, right? News became a competition. It became about becoming faster, louder, more, using the word pompous. Yeah, that's exactly what it became, because we decided to gather to hold an entertainment conversation, that you are here because you're gripped by the action that is happening. Just think about it, the old cliches go, if somebody is shouting in the middle of the street or looking up at the sky, everybody gathers around, look up the sky. So I was taught very hard work over a very long period of time pays dividends. I'm hoping I'm teaching a young team of people the same. If you want to do good work, you'll have to work hard for it. You'll have to apply your own mind to it. And through that process, I think a change happened at a period of time where principally we broke away from the concept of there is one news that everybody is doing and we are all competing against each other on that particular story. For what reason? I remember COVID first day of the first lockdown. I was mentioning this some other day as well. as a news editor, person who runs a news channel, what are you doing, right? So your gut instinct of years of training and experience is telling you it's government's job X, and our job is, of course, what's the news? The news is so and so person has criticized the lockdown, so and so Congress has said, BJP has said, and political tamasha is going on, and that's the news. We forget what this medium was for. Okay, I mean, look at what we have. We people watch the telecast. We have bureaus all over the country. We have access to the police, to government, to policy, to NGOs. We ourselves. So we said, okay, let's just forget about he said, she said, because the he said, she said, I mean, seriously, उसने उसको ये बोल दिया, उसने उसको ये बोल दिया, उसने ऐसा ट्वीट कर दिया, उसने उसको थप्पड़ मार दिया, उसने पानी फेंक दिया. What's that really achieving? Nothing. So we just sat down and said, okay, we're just going to take calls and try to solve as many problems as we can of people. Somebody can't pay rent, somebody doesn't know how to get a medicine, somebody doesn't know where to get doodh. And on real time, our reporters are going to get in touch with them and solve their problems, whether in social media and live on TV, and that's all we're going to do. So it's sometimes you have these epiphanies, and I'm going to leave it, Devika, because you need to speak to other people as well. And we don't like to point it out, but I'm going to point it out today. There are news channels which you watch in which the head of the channel is the be all and end all. They're personality driven news channels. If you ever watched NewsX before, I want you to think about how many times you see my face anywhere on the screen. I anchor very little also now. I have more work behind the scenes, hopefully still contributing in a productive way. So it's very happy to see Vineet and Devika and Megha and others becoming the faces of the channel and not me. So there has to be some philosophy behind it, and there is an art to it, and there is a science to it. Troubleshooting. I remember, you guys had come to me once when we do so many policy conversations and so many strategic level conversations, and all of those are dominated by men. And we said, no, we're going to ensure that there is one woman in every telecast, and we'll work towards it. When there is a problem happening, you remember when we were doing some back of the envelope calculations during the first the stimulus spending that the government came out with, and we figured out that the government has 1.7 lakh crores to spare, and the figure as announced by the finance minister was exactly that figure, because it's not genius. It's just about sitting down for a few minutes and thinking what's the problem and what's the solution. Look at how India is trashed all over the world. Why is it happening? What is the real risk? What are the other kinds? And Professor Nalapat is here, who's been a mentor to me as well, as is Priya. The things that you learn from people, and some can say old-fashioned journalists, but things you learn from them and interpret them live in action, and you live it and you breathe by it, and then it becomes your life. I'm hoping that is something that we can take away from what we've done in the past few years.
Okay, and let me on that note also bring in Priya Sehgal, Senior Executive Editor, and Professor Madhav Nalapa, the Editorial Director of the Sunday Guardian, into the conversation. Priya, let me begin with you. I just want to understand from you, as Rishabh has also pointed out, you've been a mentor to him. You've been in this profession for very long to see the sort of change, the way broadcast has changed, the way print has changed. How do you see now NewsX finding its own place and position in this very loud, sort of noisy market that broadcast journalism has become?
No, absolutely, Devika. And first of all, I really want to say how excited I am by the number of awards NewsX has won, and also the one award that our women's show has won, because this is exactly what NewsX is about. We try and find people, corners, niche that don't really get the limelight and publicity, and give them a voice and a platform. We started the show We Women Want, which was basically a show for women. We picked up issues that concern women. We celebrated the winners. We found, became a support group for those who needed help. And we addressed issues from everything, Devika, from, say size zero fashion to, of course, serious issues of cancer, of women's health, women's breast cancer, women domestic abuse, all kinds of issues were discussed, laws that work for women. So in that sense, I think that's what NewsX does. We brought, I think, conversation back to the news channels, TV channels. That's really what NewsX has done. We don't have a show called Dangal or Fight or, Akhada. All our debates are very, reasons. We bring in stakeholders, as Rishabh also pointed out, the COVID example, I think was a very good example as to how we actually help those who need them. It's not just, we're not just hearing our own voice. We don't have an anchor that is larger than the channel and the TV screen. We're not one of those Ravan channels where one anchor speaks with 10 windows. We bring in people who speak, who are voices. We let our voices speak. We bring in stakeholders. We bring in the ordinary people. If you look at our channels, yes, we have the debates with the politicians and the stakeholders, but we also bring in people who matter. When the COVID happened, we brought in restaurant owners, people whose businesses were hurt. So at the end of the day, we also are the voice of the common man, and we invite them to our studios. We don't just let them, come in the comment section. They are there as panelists on our shows, which is why so many people identify with us also, because we're talking about issues that matter and we allow conversation. I think that's a strong point.
Absolutely. And speaking of allowing conversation, Professor Nalapat, who's a daily guest, and we're fortunate to have him on many of our debates on almost a daily basis. Professor Nalapat, you're a voice on several other, of course, channels as well. Is there some difference that you genuinely see in the way NewsX wants to do journalism, in the way we pick our topics and the way we discuss them versus, of course, everybody else?
Well, I think there's a very clear difference. And, I'd like to say that there are hundreds of channels, so I hope I'm not going to be seen as targeting any particular channel. But the reality is that many channels don't really have a clear editorial line. It's like playing a tennis match where the tennis player can lob the ball anywhere, not just in the opponent's side of the court, but anywhere, left, right, center, anywhere. And, the person who's watching the channel over time gets a little confused. In NewsX, that does not happen. Why? The reason is very, very clear. The reason is that stories are generated, stories are aired, which make an impact, not on the channel per se, but on the people. Not only on the people who watch the channel, but the people who in general. And this is the whole point. This is the point is that NewsX covers news in a way, it covers people who matter to other people. There are people who believe they matter. Certainly they matter to themselves. What have they done for other people? Well, you'll have to really search with not just a magnifying glass, but with a microscope to find out if they've done anything for other people. The answer would probably be no. But no. NewsX searches out the people who have done things for other people. And very importantly, NewsX has a very clear editorial philosophy. And that editorial philosophy is, if you take the country as a lake, the entire lake, when the waters rise, you got a lake with 1.4 billion boats on the lake. And if the waters of the lake rise, if the waters are fragrant, if the waters are pure, it will be because all the 1.4 billion people can rise. So from that point of view, NewsX looks at the interest of this entire lake, and it looks not at itself so much as the rest as well as itself. It's a part of this whole. So I think that's what frankly is so unique about NewsX. It's got a very clear editorial line, and that clear editorial line is this lake that we call our country, and very importantly, the location of this lake in this world, the global order. And we have a very clear policy on that, a very clear line on that, and I think that's been articulated multiple times in multiple programs, so you don't go back from after watching a NewsX show with the impression that the tennis player has lobbed the tennis ball anywhere other than in the side of the court where it's meant to be lobbed. It's not all over the place. It's not flying all over the place. It's not in danger of hitting the face of any bystander. That is the greatness of, if I may say so, the uniqueness of this particular channel. The uniqueness is the impact of the channel on people, and very importantly, the way the channel features people who matter to people.
Absolutely, that's very beautifully put. And on that note, I'm going to give an opportunity to all of our editors to maybe set some vision or go live on air. If I can begin with Megha. Megha, we've tried to change, as we've tried to explain to our viewers also in the past 1 hour, we've tried to change a lot about what journalism is and should be. But what is it that you hope now that we can achieve? Some vision or goal that you'd like to just set maybe for our team, for the channel in the years to come?
You know, we've done a lot of hard work. We have been working and chipping away to put forward our perspective. And I think we've been very successfully, finally been able to do that. There is a tide that is turning towards the kind of journalism we propagate, we practice. And I think that's the way to go. There is at this point of time a churn that is required, and that churn has been brought forth by NewsX. Now, I was also mentioning that we are leading this change. We are a solutions-based telecast, and we bring forth the policy that is required. As Rishabh mentioned, you know, that particular time when the budget was announced, and we already had the figure before the finance minister went about making that budget announcement. Now, obviously, this is something that has to be sat down and that needs to be then brought forth to our audiences, and it's no rocket science. Again, you know, a journalism with sensibility, with intelligence, with credibility and integrity is something that we have been practicing, and we're going to be practicing in the future as well. The point that people have sat down, looked up and taken notice of it finally is our success, and we're going to be taking forward from there on.
Okay, I'm going to give 30 seconds just to Vineet and Rishabh as well. Vineet, 30 seconds to you on the same aspect.
All right, I won't say much. I'll perhaps take less than 30 seconds. I think what really I expect from NewsX in the coming days, and I think we are already halfway there, as Megha said, that decisions and thoughts emanating from NewsX and from the space that we so respect and leverage to get our point across reaches the entirety of the country. Policies, matters, opinions, subjects, solutions, all emanate out of NewsX. In other words, the next generation of journalists would want to be more like us than some of the people that we are not like.
Okay, all right. Rishabh, last word to you.
I'll just take that thought forward. I think what Professor Nalapat said was the bottom line. What are we here for? In the end, we have to somehow make this work as an enterprise. But in the end, we're trying to perform a service. And who's the service for? The service primarily has to be to the people of the nation that we serve and humanity at a larger cause. And everything that needs to get done to just get the mind space, the mindset of the country in a different mold. That's it. That's what we can do. I can't build the rocket ship, but I can put it on a pedestal with a very large microphone and maybe convince 1,000, 10,000 others to be interested in building rocket ship, to feel that they're heading in the right direction, to feel positivity, to feel energy, to feel a sense of purpose. I can't build the semiconductor factory, but I can certainly bring all the stakeholders together to bash their heads and raise and elevate the urgency of the matter. When something nasty is going on in the country, I can apply my mind and not see it at face value. I can say that there might be something suspicious going on, detrimental to the country, and highlight it. I can stand up for the scientists, and I can stand up for rapid change, because news by definition has often become nastiness and ugliness and things of chaos, confusion and cacophony. And I think there is a space to do what I've just said. I'm hoping that we are that space.
Absolutely, that's a fair thought to wrap up this very interesting 1 hour conversation we've had earlier with the younger team and now, of course, with the editorial team at NewsX.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.